I was 32 years old, sitting in my lawyer's office with a prenup in my hands, and my heart was breaking, but my head was clear. I thought I knew Brittany. I thought I knew the woman I was going to marry. But the person who laughed at this document, who mocked the idea of protecting what I had worked for, that was not the woman I fell in love with. That was someone else entirely. Someone I was about to walk away from. Before I tell you how everything unraveled, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe, because what happened next taught me the most expensive lesson about love and money I will ever learn. Now let me take you back to where it all started. I met Brittany 2 years ago at a charity gala in Manhattan. I was there because my company had sponsored the event, and honestly I was not expecting much beyond some networking and decent food. Then I saw her across the room. She was coordinating the whole evening, moving through the crowd with this effortless grace, making sure every detail was perfect. When our eyes met, something shifted. We talked for hours that night, long after the event ended and the staff started breaking down tables around us. She was 28, smart, funny, and had this way of making me feel like I was the only person in the world when she looked at me. Those first few months were incredible. We would have picnics in Central Park on Sunday afternoons, cook elaborate meals together in my kitchen, and stay up until 3 in the morning just talking about everything and nothing. I worked as a software engineer, pulling in a comfortable 6-figure salary, and she loved her job as an event coordinator. We were building something real, something solid. After a year and a half, I proposed to her at the same venue where we first met. She cried, I cried, and everything felt perfect. I thought I had found the one. But then something changed. It was subtle at first, almost imperceptible. Right after we got engaged, Brittany started making small requests about the wedding. At first it was innocent enough. Honey, can we upgrade the venue? Would you mind if we got a slightly nicer photographer? I loved her, and I wanted her to have the wedding of her dreams, so I said yes. But then the requests kept coming, and they were not small anymore. The designer wedding dress, instead of something from a department store. The destination bachelorette party to Miami, instead of a local weekend getaway. The premium open bar instead of limited selections. Each time I hesitated, she would look at me with those big eyes and say, "Do you not want our day to be perfect?" And I would feel guilty, like I was being cheap or unreasonable. I started noticing other things too. The way she talked about money changed. It went from your money and my money to our money. At first I thought it was sweet, a sign that she saw us as a real partnership. But then I found a receipt. She had ordered a $12,000 wedding dress and charged it to my credit card without asking. When I brought it up, she seemed genuinely confused by my concern. "I am your fiancé," she said. "What is yours is mine." That should have been a bigger red flag than it was. We had originally agreed on a $50,000 budget for the wedding. It seemed reasonable for both of us. But every conversation about the budget ended with Brittany pushing for more. 80,000, then 100,000. She wanted 300 guests instead of the 100 we had planned. She insisted on upgrading from the local country club to a waterfront estate. The DJ became a live band. The local flowers became imported arrangements flown in from Ecuador. My friends started noticing too. My buddy Kevin, who is an accountant, pulled me aside one night when we were out for drinks. "Dude, are you sure about this?" he asked. I got defensive immediately. Of course I am sure. I love her. But Kevin would not let it go. Just saying pre-marriage spending habits are post-marriage spending habits. Think about that. I thought about it more than I wanted to admit, especially after Brittany quit her job 2 months before the wedding. She said she needed to focus on planning our big day, that coordinating everything was basically a full-time job. I supported her decision. What I did not expect was for her to announce that she planned to be a stay-at-home wife after we got married. I did not oppose the idea in principle, but something about the timing felt off. Then I started finding more receipts. Over 3 months, Brittany had charged $30,000 to my credit card. Jewelry, spa treatments, shopping trips with her friends. When I asked her about it, she seemed annoyed that I was even bringing it up. "We are getting married, Oliver. This is what couples do. They share everything. But we were not married yet." and increasingly I was starting to wonder if we ever should be. Kevin invited me out for beers on a Tuesday night. I could tell something was on his mind by the way he kept clearing his throat and fidgeting with his bottle label. Finally, he just came out with it. "Have you thought about a prenup?" I felt myself getting defensive immediately. "I trust her, Kevin." He held up his hands. "I know you do. This is not about trust. It is about protecting both of you, being smart." He told me about his older brother who lost everything in a divorce 3 years ago. House savings, even part of his retirement fund. His brother had been blindsided, had thought his marriage was solid right up until it was not. Kevin was not saying Brittany was like his sister-in-law. He was just saying that things change, people change, and it is better to have protections in place when everyone still likes each other. I sat there nursing my beer, thinking about my net worth. Between my house, my savings, my investments, and the stock options from my company, I was sitting on about $1.5 million. I had worked hard for that. 80-hour weeks, weekend coding sessions, sacrificing social life, to build my career. Was it really so unreasonable to want to protect what I had built before Brittany came into my life? "You worked hard for this," Kevin said quietly. "It is not about her. It is about being smart." He slid a business card across the table. "This is my family law attorney. Just talk to her. See what she says." I kept that card in my wallet for 3 days before I called. Over the next week, I did my research. I learned about asset protection, debt separation, and inheritance rights. I learned that a prenup was not planning for divorce any more than buying car insurance was planning for an accident. It was about financial clarity. It was about making sure both people understood what they were bringing into a marriage and what would happen to those assets if things did not work out. The more I read, the more I remembered things that should have concerned me earlier. Brittany quitting her job. Her insistence on being a stay-at-home wife, with no discussion about what that meant financially. The way she had been spending my money like it was already hers. The $30,000 in 3 months. Her dismissive attitude when I raised concerns about the budget. I was not trying to trap her or trick her. I just wanted clarity. I wanted us both to go into this marriage with our eyes open. I made an appointment with the attorney Kevin recommended. Her name was Sarah Morrison, and she had been practicing family law for 15 years. She was professional, straightforward, and surprisingly empathetic. She explained that what I was asking for was completely standard. We would protect my premarital assets, while ensuring that anything we built together during the marriage would be split equally. There would be no alimony if the marriage lasted less than 5 years, and graduated alimony based on length of marriage after that. Everything was fair and designed to protect both parties. "This is reasonable," Sarah told me, as she slid the draft prenup across her desk. "It protects both of you and ensures clarity. Any good partner should be willing to sign something like this." I felt confident leaving her office. This was the right decision. This was the smart decision. Now, I just had to talk to Brittany about it. I chose a quiet evening at home. "What is it, honey?" "I've been talking to a lawyer, and I think it would be smart for us to sign a prenup before we get married." The smile disappeared from her face, instantly. "A prenup? Are you planning to divorce me already?" "No, of course not." I tried to keep my voice calm and steady. "It is just a smart financial decision. It protects both of us and makes sure we are on the same page about money." She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "What is it, honey?" "I've been talking to a lawyer, and I think it would be smart for us to sign a prenup before we get married." The smile disappeared from her face, instantly. "A prenup? Are you planning to divorce me already?" "No, of course not." I tried to keep my voice calm and steady. "It is just a smart financial decision. It protects both of us and makes sure we are on the same page about money." She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "Smart, or you do not trust me. This is not about trust." I stood up too, trying to maintain eye contact. A prenup is standard for people in our situation. It is about clarity, about making sure we both understand what we are bringing into the marriage. People in our situation. Her voice was rising now. You mean you have money, and I do not? Is that what this is about, Britt, please? Just listen to me. The prenup protects both of us. It ensures that what I have built before we met stays mine, and what we build together stays ours. That is fair. Fair. If you loved me, you would not need a piece of paper telling you what is yours and what is mine. Marriage is about trust, Oliver. About partnership. And a prenup ensures that partnership has clear boundaries. I was trying so hard to stay calm, but I could feel my frustration building. This is not personal. This is practical. She stared at me for a long moment, her face flushed with anger. Then she turned and walked toward the bedroom. You know what I need space. I cannot believe you are doing this. She slammed the bedroom door behind her. I stood in the kitchen surrounded by the remains of our romantic dinner and slept on the couch that night. The next 2 days were silent. Brittany refused to talk to me. I gave her space, but I remained firm in my decision. This was not negotiable. On the 3rd day, her whole demeanor changed. She came out of the bedroom that morning with a soft smile, made coffee, and sat down next to me on the couch. Let us talk about this prenup thing, she said gently. I felt a surge of hope. Maybe she had thought it through. Maybe she understood now. We sat at the kitchen table, and I walked her through every single point in the document. I explained how it protected both of us, how it was not about expecting our marriage to fail, but about being prepared and honest. She listened quietly, nodding occasionally, her expression unreadable. When I finished, she looked at me and said, "Let me think about it. Of course. Take your time. The wedding is not for 3 months. We have time to work through this." She smiled, but something about it felt off. Too calculated, too calm. But I pushed the feeling aside. She was coming around. Everything was going to be okay. I had no idea how wrong I was. A week passed. Brittany was acting strange, overly sweet one moment, and distant the next. I could not quite put my finger on it, but something felt choreographed about her behavior. Then one afternoon I came home early from work. I had finished a project ahead of schedule and decided to surprise her with takeout from her favorite Thai place. As I walked up to our apartment, I heard her voice through the bedroom door. She was on the phone and the door was slightly ajar. I was not trying to eavesdrop, but her words stopped me cold. "Do not worry, Mom. I will handle it. He will sign whatever I want after the wedding. Men always do." She laughed, and it was not the warm laugh I had fallen in love with. It was cold, calculating. "A prenup. Please, I will just refuse." "What is he going to do? Cancel the wedding?" She paused, listening to whoever was on the other end. "Once we are married, half of everything is mine anyway. I have been tracking his accounts. That startup exit he had last year, I know exactly how much he has." My blood turned to ice. I stood frozen in the hallway, my heart pounding so hard, I thought it might break through my chest. This was not the woman I proposed to. This was not the person I thought I knew. I quietly backed away from the door, left the apartment, and got in my car. I drove around for 2 hours, just processing what I had heard. Everything made sense now. The excessive spending, quitting her job, the insistence on being a stay-at-home wife, the way she talked about our money, the dismissive attitude about the prenup. She had been planning this all along. I was not her partner. I was her retirement plan. By the time I got back to the apartment that evening, I had made my decision. But I needed to see if she would be honest with me first. I needed to give her one last chance to show me who she really was. The next evening, I asked her to sit down with me. I had the prenup document in my hand. "Brittany, I need you to review this and sign it. We have put this off long enough." Her demeanor changed instantly. That calculating look I had seen glimpses of before was now fully visible. She smiled, but it was not friendly. It was cocky. "Or what? Or we need to reconsider this marriage." She actually laughed. Not a nervous giggle or an uncomfortable chuckle. A full mocking laugh. "You are joking, right? The wedding is in 2.5 months. I have already sent out the invitations. My dress is being fitted. You think I am signing away my rights?" I kept my voice level. "These are not rights you are signing away. This is my property from before we met. Property I worked for. Her eyes narrowed, and I watched her transform into someone I barely recognized. Listen, Oliver. You either marry me as is, or not at all. I am not signing anything. You have already spent over $150,000 on this wedding. You think you are getting that back. Everyone knows we are getting married. Your family, your colleagues, your friends. You will look like an idiot if you cancel now. She stood up, crossing her arms across her chest, her voice dripping with contempt. So here is what is going to happen. You are going to tear up that ridiculous prenup. We are going to get married, and we are going to live the life I deserve. I did not date a software engineer for 2 years to walk away with nothing. I sat there letting her words wash over me. Inside, I was processing the confirmation of everything I had overheard. She had just admitted this entire relationship had been calculated. I was not her love. I was her investment. When she finished her speech, I stood up slowly. My voice was completely calm. Okay. She blinked, confused by my composure. Okay. What? Okay. Not at all, then. What? Her confidence wavered for the first time. You said either as is or not at all. I choose not at all. You cannot be serious. Her face was starting to pale. I am completely serious. This wedding is not happening. Oliver, stop. You are being ridiculous. Let us just talk about this. But I was already walking toward the door, grabbing my car keys from the counter. Where are you going? She called after me, panic creeping into her voice now. To fix my mistake, I said without turning around. I drove straight to my office even though it was 8 o'clock at night. I sat at my desk, turned on my computer, and pulled up the spreadsheet I had been avoiding. Every vendor, every deposit, every commitment for a wedding that was no longer going to happen. Wedding planner, venue, caterer, photographer, band, florist, hotel blocks, transportation. The list went on and on. I started making calls. The first call was to Diana, our wedding planner. She answered on the third ring, sounding surprised to hear from me so late. Diana, this is Oliver. I need to cancel the wedding. There was a long pause. What, when? What happened? Effective immediately. Cancel everything. I will handle any cancellation fees. But Oliver, the final dress fitting is next week. The cake tasting is scheduled for Thursday. The venue needs final headcount in 10 days. Cancel it all. Send me the final invoice for any penalties or fees we cannot recover. She tried to talk me out of it, suggesting maybe we just needed to postpone. Maybe we were having cold feet. But my voice remained steady. This is not cold feet, Diana. This is a final decision. Please cancel everything. I spent the next 3 hours on the phone. The venue was sympathetic but firm. We lost the $10,000 deposit. The caterer kept $5,000. The photographer thankfully was understanding and refunded half of what we had paid. The band kept their deposit but were professional about it. The florist had not ordered anything yet, so we got most of that money back. I canceled the hotel room blocks and the transportation service. By the time I finished, it was past 11 at night. The total loss was approximately $45,000. $45,000 to get out of what would have been the worst decision of my life. As I sat there in my empty office, I thought about what a divorce might have cost me. Half of everything. Alimony, legal fees, years of fighting. $45,000 was a bargain. My phone had been buzzing constantly throughout the evening. Brittany, text after text, each one escalating from confusion to anger to desperation. You are being ridiculous. Let us talk about this. Fine, I will sign your stupid prenup. Oliver, answer me. You are making a huge mistake. This is not over. You cannot just throw away 2 years. I did not respond to a single message. There was nothing left to say. 1 week later, Brittany showed up for her final dress fitting. She had been staying with her mother since our fight, and despite the dozens of messages she had sent me, I had remained silent. I think part of her believed I was bluffing, that I would come crawling back, that the wedding was still happening. The bridal boutique was in an upscale part of town, the kind of place with marble floors and champagne for the brides. Brittany walked in that morning, probably still holding on to some hope that this could be salvaged. The owner, a kind woman named Patricia, looked up from her desk with a confused expression. "Miss, we do not have an appointment for you today." "What it is, my final fitting." Patricia checked her computer, her face sympathetic. "I am sorry, but your wedding party canceled all appointments last week. The account has been settled." I watched the color drain from Brittany's face as she stood there in the middle of the store. Other brides milling around trying on their gowns, living their happy moments. "What do you mean canceled?" The groom called personally. He was very apologetic about the short notice. He settled the account and canceled everything. Reality was hitting her now. He actually canceled everything. She pulled out her phone right there in the store and called me. I answered on the first ring. "Yes." Her voice was shaking. "You actually canceled everything I did. But everyone is going to ask questions. What am I supposed to tell people?" My voice was cold but not cruel. "Tell them the truth. You wanted marriage without commitment to honesty. I chose honesty without marriage." I hung up before she could respond. The following weeks were challenging in ways I had not anticipated. I had to field questions from family and friends about what happened. My parents were confused and hurt. My mother kept calling, asking if we could work it out, if maybe I was being too hasty. But when I explained the situation, when I told them about the prenup refusal and what I had overheard, their tune changed. Kevin was the first person I told everything. We met at the same bar where he had first suggested the prenup. I walked him through the whole story from the phone call I overheard to the final confrontation. When I finished, he just shook his head and clapped me on the shoulder. "Proud of you, man. That took real guts." My mother came around too. Eventually. She showed up at my apartment one Sunday with homemade lasagna and a bottle of wine. We talked for hours, and by the end of the night she hugged me tight and said, "Better now than after the vows. You did the right thing." Brittany tried to contact me multiple times over the next month. She wanted to talk, to explain, to try again. She claimed she had been scared and said things she did not mean. But I knew the truth. I had heard it in her voice on that phone call with her mother. I had seen it in her eyes during our final confrontation. She had shown me exactly who she was, and I had chosen to believe her. She eventually moved out fully. Since it was technically my apartment, she did not have much choice. Through mutual friends, I heard that she was telling people I had gotten cold feet, that I had changed my mind about marriage. She never mentioned the prenup or the real reason I walked away. I did not bother correcting the narrative. Let her save face if she needed to. I was free, and that was all that mattered. 6 months later, I was in a completely different place emotionally. I dated casually, but was in no rush to jump into anything serious. I focused on my work and got promoted to senior engineer. I took the money I would have spent on the wedding and invested it in index funds. I started going to the gym regularly, picked up woodworking as a hobby, and reconnected with friends I had neglected during my relationship with Brittany. A year after calling off the wedding, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Brittany was engaged again. This time to a guy in finance, someone apparently even wealthier than I was. I felt absolutely nothing when I heard the news. No jealousy, no regret, just relief. Relief that it was not me. Relief that some other guy would have to figure out who she really was. I hoped for his sake he was smarter than I had been. Now, 18 months after that night in my office making cancellation calls, I sit here thinking about everything that happened. People ask me sometimes if I am bitter, if I regret the 2 years I spent with Brittany, or the $45,000 I lost. The answer is no. I am not bitter. I am grateful. I am grateful that I saw the truth before it was too late. I am grateful that my friend Kevin cared enough to push me toward protecting myself. I am grateful that Brittany showed me who she really was before we signed a marriage license. Because once that paper is signed, walking away becomes infinitely more complicated and expensive. Money has a funny way of revealing people's true character. When there is nothing at stake, it is easy to be loving and kind and supportive. But when real assets enter the picture, when there is something tangible to gain or lose, that is when you see who someone really is. Brittany saw my money before she saw me. And when I asked her to respect the boundaries around what I had built before she entered my life, she could not do it. She would not do it. The lessons I learned were expensive but invaluable. Trust your instincts when someone shows you who they are. I had seen the signs, the red flags, the warning bells. I had just chosen to ignore them because I was in love with the idea of her, not the reality. When someone starts spending your money without asking, that is not love. That is entitlement. When someone quits their job and expects you to support them without a real conversation about what that means, that is not partnership. That is dependence with an agenda. Protecting yourself financially is not a lack of love. It is self-respect. The right person, the person who truly loves you and values you as a human being beyond your bank account, will not see a prenup as an insult. They will see it as a responsible, mature step that protects both people in a relationship. If someone gets angry or defensive or mocking when you suggest protecting your assets, that tells you everything you need to know about their priorities. $45,000 was a cheap price to pay for freedom, a cheap price to pay for peace of mind, a cheap price to pay for the knowledge that I stood up for myself when it mattered most. I could have ignored that phone call I overheard. I could have convinced myself I misheard or misunderstood. I could have gone through with the wedding and hoped for the best. But hoping for the best while ignoring reality is not courage. It is cowardice. Walking away from someone you love is one of the hardest things you will ever do. But sometimes loving yourself has to come first. Sometimes you have to choose your own well-being over someone else's expectations. And when you make that choice, when you stand firm in your values, even when it hurts, you come out stronger on the other side. I am not the same person I was 2 years ago when I met Brittany at that charity gala. I am wiser now, more cautious, but not cynical. I still believe in love. I still believe in marriage. I just believe now that those things should be built on honesty, transparency, and mutual respect. Not on assumptions, not on financial dependency, and definitely not on one person refusing to have honest conversations about money. The person who truly loves you will never ask you to choose between them and your self-respect. They will never make you feel guilty for protecting what you have worked hard to build. They will never laugh at your reasonable boundaries or mock your need for clarity. The right person will sit down with you, have the hard conversations, and work with you to build something solid and sustainable. Brittany was not that person, and I am grateful I found out when I did. Sometimes the best decision you can make is the one that breaks your heart in the short term, but saves your life in the long term. Sometimes love means loving yourself enough to walk away, and sometimes the most expensive thing you will ever pay for is a lesson in knowing your own worth. When someone starts spending your money without asking, that is not love. That is entitlement. When someone quits their job and expects you to support them without a real conversation about what that means, that is not partnership. That is dependence with an agenda. Protecting yourself financially is not a lack of love. It is self-respect. The right person, the person who truly loves you and values you as a human being beyond your bank account, will not see a prenup as an insult. The right person will sit down with you, have the hard conversations, and work with you to build something solid and sustainable. Brittany was not that person, and I am grateful I found out when I did. Sometimes the best decision you can make is the one that breaks your heart in the short term, but saves your life in the long term. Sometimes love means loving yourself enough to walk away, and sometimes the most expensive thing you will ever pay for is a lesson in knowing your own worth.